Chord symbols can seem like a secret code to many guitar and bass players, but once you understand them, they unlock a world of musical possibilities. Whether you're strumming simple triads or adding complex extensions, knowing how to read and use chord symbols is a game changer. Well, this week we're decoding chord symbols and exploring how they bring new chord colors to your music just by using them creatively. Are you ready? Let's get nerdy. I'm Andy Schneider, career musician turned guitar coach, producer, and author of over 100 books from my publishing company, Singing Music Books. I was a high school band nerd, then a devoted jazz guy, then a backing musician for great artists in every type of music. From Austin to Nashville to New York City, I've learned from my musical experiences and the great musicians that were there with me. I'm a self-taught guitarist, but I was lucky enough to get the right bits of education early on in my career. Pairing that with the many conversations I've shared with more experienced musicians put me on the path to success, a path that built my skills to become the experienced, confident musician audiences enjoy today. I created the Guitar Nerd podcast to give you simple steps to building and growing your musical knowledge, having greater abilities, and getting that amazing music that's inside of you out and into the world where we can all enjoy it. Whether you're a beginner or experienced guitar or bass player, if you want to make fantastic music, you're in the right place, my friend. Now let's get nerdy. Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back, my nerds. Welcome back, everyone, to Guitar Nerd. My name is Andy Schneider. This is the Nerd Hangout. This is Nerd One, the place where we talk about all the things that are nerdy about guitars and bass. I got all kinds of tips on this show to amplify your playing, maybe literally, but to amplify your music for sure. Whether you're a guitar or bass player, this is the place where we talk technique, we talk theory, and we talk music gear from time to time. Yes, we do, don't we? Yeah. Whether you're new to playing or have some experience, I've got something here that I hope you're going to put into motion in your own music this week. Something to energize and amp up your game. Last week's episode was about essential muting techniques. Essential muting techniques, both right hand and left hand, or picking hand and fretboard hand. And they really are the things that make the music speak. It's like adding good punctuation to a sentence to be able to not only start the note on time, but to stop it on time. That's how you phrase and create good musical statements, right? Well, that's what we got into. We rolled up our sleeves and worked on a couple of different techniques and a couple different ways to mute. This week, we're diving into a world of chord symbols. Just understanding those complex little bits of what seem like Greek can really transform your playing. They can take you from plain vanilla sounds to something much more colorful, much more expressive, much more professional, and it's sure a lot of fun to be able to get to the bottom of any piece of music that you ever come across and be able to say like, oh, I've never even seen that chord symbol before, but I can reason this out because it's a pretty simple little method once you're exposed to it, once somebody shows you how to read those things. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. Chord symbols are the shorthand of music. They're the shorthand language, telling you exactly what notes to play and how to structure them. But what do they mean? How can you break it down and use them effectively? I'm going to show you. Chord symbols are a brilliantly simple way to describe any combination of notes. Knowing how to read them is a lot like knowing how to read a map. Maps aren't really that complicated, but until someone shows you, you won't be able to use it. A good map can take you anywhere. So it's important that you understand the basics of how to read it, and it's important also to understand the basics of reading a chord symbol. Chord symbols often include things like numbers, like 7 and 9 or 13. Those are the numbers that refer to the extensions to the basic minor or major that add the color, that add the depth, that add more harmonic specifics, right? Don't worry, you can start simple and build from there. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. If you don't want to play the whole complex thing, it can often be simplified down to a basic chord that you already know. Well, the first bits of information that any chord symbol contains are the root and the basic triad, the big idea, the flavor of the chord. And there are not many of those. There's a major, a minor, diminished, and augmented. Now, just a couple of episodes ago, episode 20, we talked about triads at length and how to spell them and how they are combinations, very simple combinations of minor and major intervals. Okay, so revisit episode 20 if you want to take a look at how to build triads, which are the building blocks of all of these chords that we're going to be talking about. They are all combinations, stacking triads like little building blocks on top of each other. Well, there are only 4 types of triads: major, minor, diminished, and augmented. So that's the first bit of information in any chord symbol. If you see a capital C, no other letters, no nothing, just a basic big capital C, that means C major. And if that C is followed by a small case M, that means C minor. Simple enough, right? It's major if they don't say anything, minor if it has a little m. Instead of the M, if it's a circle, a superscript circle, C and circle, that's a C diminished chord. And if that circle were to be changed into a plus sign, a raised plus sign, that means augmented. Now, diminished and augmented chords, they happen a lot less frequently in most music, so we won't spend a lot of time talking about them right now, but just know that they're there. So of major and minor, we've got the major triad and the minor triad spelling out major and minor chord. Okay, the next little bit is the extension. And extensions are generally built by adding an odd number. Yeah, we build chords most often by odd numbers. So if we're spelling a chord with the first, third, and fifth notes of a certain scale, let's say a major scale, we would say, let's use the first, the third, the fifth, and what comes next? Seventh. It's the next odd number. First, third, fifth, seventh. And we would use them, if it's a major chord that we're talking about, we would use them of the major scale. So 1, 3, 5, and 7 of the major scale. And that is written, if it's in C, C, capital M, 7. That's a C major 7. Conversely, if it's a minor 7th sound that we're looking for, it's the first, third, fifth, and flat 7, the 7 from the minor scale, that are all combined. And it's written C, lowercase m and 7. And I say that a little bit hesitantly because in jazz lingo, you'll often see a chord symbol that has a capital C and then a raised minus symbol and 7. So minus, minor, you see where they got that? Yeah, it's a little bit of shorthand. But generally, you'll identify the type of 7th chord by the capital M or the small m in between the root and the 7. C capital M 7 is major 7th. C small m 7, minor 7. Okay, easy enough too, right? Major, minor, big M, major, small m, minor. That's easy to remember. Well, there's one other type of 7th chord. This is where it gets really groovy. It's called the dominant 7th. What's a dominant 7th? Well, do you remember I said in a major 7th, we use the major 3rd of the scale. We use a major 3rd and the major 7th, both notes in the major scale. Major 3rd, major 7th equals major 7th chord. If we use the minor third, minor seventh, that's a minor seventh. What if we use a major third and a minor seventh? Major third and minor seventh. That sounds weird, right? Why would you do that? Because it sounds so good. Here's a major seventh chord. Pretty. Here's a minor seventh chord. Pretty, pretty. And here's a dominant seventh chord. It's got the first, third. I could use the fifth. And then instead of using the major seventh, I lowered it 1/2 step and got the flat seventh, the minor seventh. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's the dominant seventh. And boy, dominant chords are really important. They hold a lot of color and get used very frequently in all types of music. They're a favorite for adding even more extensions on top of to add more complex color and harmony. Let's take a look. If we're adding by odd numbers, if we're building chords by odd numbers, what comes after 7? Of course, it's 9. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And here's the thing about extensions. Once you cross an extension, we've already got to the 7th. We're going to go add the 9th. We keep everything underneath. If you're going to add the 9th, it means that you already kept the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. A 9th chord, kind of by default, includes the 7th. So there are major 9th chords, there are minor 9th chords, there are dominant 9th chords, all built using the 9th and that type of extended chord that we talked about earlier, major, minor, dominant. Now, hey, Andy, you're talking a lot about ninths. What? I thought there were 8 notes in a scale. Yeah, that's right. What could the 9th possibly be? Okay. Well, there are 8 notes in a scale. And in fact, the 8th note is the same as the 1st note. In the C major scale, it's both C and 8 notes higher, it's C again. So instead of saying 8, play the 8th note, people just say play the root, play the 1st. 8 equals 1. And if 8 equals 1, then the next note after 8, let's imagine the scale just kept going and going up there. Right after 8 comes 9. Right after 8 comes 9. Well, right after 1 comes 2. You see? The 9th is the same as the 2. The 9th is the same as the 2nd of the scale. So a chord that has the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th actually has the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 2nd. There's a great reason for calling them 9th chords. I mean, why didn't we call them +2? Well, it's because of that little rule that I threw in at you earlier, where when you add the 9th, it means that you're keeping the 7th. We build by triads, and triads build in odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Easy enough. If you see that adding things by odd numbers gets you the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, then you go 11th and 13th. We have a way of expressing every note, 1 through 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because 9 is 2, 11 is 4, 13 is 6, and yes, 13th chords, you'll see that all the time. So with those, a writer can express any combination of harmony, and then sometimes those notes get modified as well. For example, on the dominant 9th chord, it's a major triad, a minor 7th, the 9th. But that 9th can be further modified flat or sharp, down a half step or up a half step, adding to even more groovy harmonic possibilities. Here's a ninth chord, as in a dominant ninth chord. And if I take that ninth and lower it 1/2 step, it sounds like this. Wow. That's I picture a moonlight scene. Flat 9 chord. It's called a flat 9 or a dominant flat ninth. Again, back to the ninth. Dominant flat 9. What if we take that ninth and raise it one? That's the sharp 9, and boy, it's a favorite of rock players, blues players, and jazz players. It's just such a groovy, great chord. You got to have that one. Throw that one in your bag. If you don't know a sharp 9 chord, go find some chord diagrams and get all you can. Hendrix loved the sharp 9 chord. Doesn't that sound like a lot of blues players? Yeah. That's an E sharp 9 that I just played, and it gets used a lot. And it's one of my favorite chords of all time. Well, if you're enjoying all of this chord talk and you want to dive deeper into chord theory and become a chord symbol master, head over to the Guitar Nerd companion website. It's seeingmusicbooks.com. Seeingmusicbooks.com. Check out my book, Guitar Theory, Nuts and Bolts. Guitar Theory Nuts and Bolts lays out for you in workbook-like fashion how to break down chord symbols, how to build them from scratch, and then how to build some exercises around those things so that you can really get them under your fingers and into your ears at the same time. Guitar Theory Nuts and Bolts, and there's a bass guitar version, Bass Guitar Theory Nuts and Bolts, are packed with insights and exercises to help you master chord symbols and those bits of theory of how triads go together. Chord symbols are not just instructions or directions, they're invitations. They're invitations to explore and create. So try experimenting with some different extensions this week. See how they change your sound. And by the way, this is the section for you more advanced players who have a little bit of playing mileage under your belts. This is the portion of the show where we're going to nerd out. Yeah, this is the big nerd out where we can put this into action to blow your creativity out of the water. Let's go. Can we do it? Try adding extensions. I bet you've got a song that uses a dominant 7. Do you have anything with an E7, a G7? Maybe try extending that one further. Why not try a dominant 9th in place of the dominant 7th? It still is a dominant 7th. It's got those notes, but you're going to be adding one more color note. In the same way that this is a dominant 7th, you're going to be adding one more. I think you can see how that just might work for your music, and you may prefer a more complex and colored sound, something a little bit more sophisticated, at least just for one section of your song. Don't be afraid to lay your hands on a chord dictionary or encyclopedia and find a chord that sounds interesting to you. Give it a go. I've written a chord dictionary for both right and left-hand guitarists. I've written one for right and left-hand banjo players as well. Yeah. But lay your hands on a good chord dictionary, find something interesting, and if it's just too much to play, remember you can always simplify. You'll recall that the first bit of information in every chord symbol is the root, and then the principal flavor, major, minor, diminished, augmented. So you can always simplify it down to those two elements. You don't have to play extensions to make a very nice chord and to be functional in your song. The further that the harmonic train goes, the more extensions you add on. Think of them as a little bit optional, okay? I mean, some people will say, no, absolutely, that's the song. You just must have those. But I'm telling you, people will still know what song you're playing, and you'll be able to get through a difficult section if you have to. Those are the realities of real-world playing. Sometimes you need to simplify. So you can always take it down to just the major or minor triad. And if you would like some extensions, but maybe your fingers are getting tied up into a puzzle pretzel, you just don't have the fingers to play every note in a complex chord, that's okay. Great guitarists face that every day. And what they do is they simplify. Simplify down to the essential notes, the ones that are going to be most meaningful at that moment. And how do you know what they are? Well, here's one technique. I will often omit the fifth because I'm usually in a rock setting where I need to play the root, or I'm in a solo setting where I need to play the root. It kind of helps define the bass end of the chord, right? The fifth doesn't do that much more than the root did. Yeah, it's nice and you need it for power and power chords, but we're talking now about harmonic richness. So the fifth doesn't really add too much value. Let's take that out of there. Well, what's left? Got to play the third. Yeah, that's how you know whether it's a major third or a minor third. That's how your ears can tell. So you're going to keep the root, the third, throw away the fifth, then probably keep the seventh. Because those three notes alone spell out a very nice chord. There are the three notes of a dominant chord. No fifth. That note I'm taking out. Three notes of a four-note chord. And doesn't it work great? You can totally hear what's going on. Let me tell you about this guy I knew a while back. Chord symbols are your guide to understanding and creating new music. From simple triads to complex extensions, they offer endless possibilities for expression. Thanks to everybody for subscribing. Thanks for shouting at me on the social. Sure appreciate it. Keep those cards and letters coming. Next week, we're going to be talking about picks. Ooh, guitar picks or bass picks. They're absolutely fundamental, and your sound begins right there with them, at that exact place where the pick meets the string. That's how the sound starts, and they're often overlooked. We kind of tend to just take the de facto whatever pick was in front of us or came with the guitar when we started, and maybe haven't done enough exploration because so much of your tone comes from that pick. It's a choice of the strings you use and the choice of pick. So we're going to explore different materials, builds, styles, all kinds of stuff, both guitar players and bass players. I've been using a pick on bass. I didn't learn bass with a pick. I learned with my fingers, and getting to great pick technique took me a bit of time, but it was so worth it. And now I can play as well with a pick as I do with my fingers, and I have a choice of tone, and I do use different picks from time to time. So next week, a huge pick special. Yeah, picking your pick. Musician, you got great music inside of you. Let's get that bass music out into the world. Let's get that guitar music out into the world. Everybody needs to hear you. I think if you've got any music inside of you, if it's meaningful to you, it's going to be meaningful to someone. And that's what is important. We all need different things, and you've got something for someone. They're going to love hearing what you've learned, and maybe you learned a little piece of chord harmony here this week. Experiment this week with chord symbols. Try some new extensions. See how chord symbols will transform your playing. Until next time, have a great nerdy week. I'm Andy Schneider, and you've been listening to Guitar Nerd.